I'm wondering whether or not I should take heart in an interview that Jeremy Hunt has given to Sky TV this morning. And it's about Rwanda, of course. It's about Rwanda. It always has to be about Rwanda at the moment. Ever since Rishi Sunak's extraordinary statement that he's going to change the law in order to get round a legal decision that he doesn't like. So I don't think Rwanda is remotely possible. And even if it goes ahead, Rishi Sunak knows, and I know, and others know, that the law will be changed and Rwanda will be an aborted concern under a Labour government, number one. Number two, I don't think having one plane take off is going to be enough to seriously change the outcome of any sort of election prospect. Having many planes take off, maybe some of the people who were voting for Tice might vote for Rishi Sunak, but I think it's certainly not certain, and the time frame is very small for him to turn that round. I think the greater likelihood is that moderate Conservatives are simply not going to vote. They won't go over to Labour, and they're unlikely to vote for the Lib Dems, and they're just going to stay at home or soil their ballot paper. So to legislate around the problem is to say that the law has no value. And there are 2 points in this legislation. Number one, to establish that Rwanda is safe, and number two, Hunt says that we can change the law. And he's asked, are you comfortable with changing the law? And he says that we've made a commitment that small boats are now down by 1/3. I think that's something to do with the weather. It's less to do with fear. And he will do what it takes to secure our borders. Now, that's a perfectly reasonable statement, but it's not a statement about Rwanda. He talks about being fair to the electorate, being fair to people who come here and seek sanctuary, and to stop the foul practice of the smugglers putting people onto boats and making them risk their lives. Now, he's quite right about that as well. The point is, to accept all the premises is not necessarily to accept the conclusions which are drawn. I draw different conclusions to Rishi Sunak and Jeremy Hunt here. And what is fascinating is the evasive tone that actually Jeremy Hunt takes. So although he says all the right things, there's a question about whether or not the emergency legislation can be done quick enough, and that obstacles can be got round. Can they be resolved lawfully? And then suddenly, at the end of this interview, Jeremy Hunt says, and if we need to, we will change the law to do that. If we need to. But actually, what Rishi Sunak had said the other day was that we will change the law. What Jeremy Hunt says, that if we need to, after all that we have done, we will change the law. It seems to me to be a very gentle pushback on Rishi Sunak's commitment. And I would be interested to see how much more of a pushback takes place over the next week. At the moment, there are civil servants in Rwanda. All they have to do is come back and say this is not an option. And there might be other options. So changing the law does not rule out the problems inherent in sending people to Rwanda, because Rwanda has been declared an unsafe country. simply declaring it safe doesn't make it safer. The same issues will still be there. And it doesn't, and Rishi Sunak can say, well, we're not going to listen to a foreign court. It doesn't take a foreign court. A British court can quite easily cite the Supreme Court judgment as precedent for saying that this flight is unsafe. We don't need to go to an international court. And there is an alternative. There is an alternative, quite apart from my much grander plan that we should challenge, or we should set up an international conference and look at the issue of migration in general. Quite apart from that, I think there is a possibility of, for example, sending a limited number of migrants to a British territory. I can't think of very many that are available, but the Falklands certainly has a lot of space, does it not? It would simply be a matter of building something, wouldn't it? I'm sure that would act as a deterrent. I think the whole Rwanda plan has been ill-conceived by people who are more driven by ideology than by common sense. And sadly, the Prime Minister is reading from their diaries or their notebooks, and what does that suggest? Does that suggest he also is driven by ideology rather than common sense, or is he just inclined to laziness? I don't think he's lazy, but I don't understand why he hasn't done his own work.